Pizzagate is real. Pizzagate is real. The Catholic Church has been sexually abusing children, tens of thousands of them for decades. Yeah, don't touch me, okay? Pizzagate is real. Oh, you want to manhandle me? You want to manhandle me? You want to manhandle me? Yeah? Yeah? Get your fucking hands off me. Get your fucking hands off me. Get your hands off me. Get out of the church. I'm going out of the church. I'm going out of the church. Get out of the church. Yeah, okay. Did I say something wrong? Tens of thousands of kids. It's all over. Yeah, I'm not coming back. Okay. Tens of thousands of kids. Yeah, there you go.
And that was a scene from Bad Santa 3 starring Howard Kaplan. Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Traffic Report. and people, that's as good as it's going to get tonight. That's the best thing you're going to see in the next hour. So,
I get nervous even thinking about that. That was a nerve-wracking evening.
Yeah, good. Well, and you're going to St. Patty's someday. Those mix there will be really thrilled with you. Oh, someday, you know, in the future. So, God damn, Kelly, how are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. Considering,
just checking if we're yep. Oh, we're on. Okay. So yeah, tonight the report. I'll show you it just briefly. I've been reading it most of the day. The highlight of my day was weed whacking. When I just had to take a break, and anything was preferable to reading this. And so there it is, the 40th statewide investigating grand jury report 1. And this is the redacted version. You guys don't know because the Pennsylvania Supreme Court is still protecting some of the child rapists that are included in this report. So you'll see some redactions in it. Just the introduction. I got through the introduction and the first 2 dioceses, Allentown and Erie. And I've been doing this a long time, and I've been exposed to, you know, some pretty awful material. And I'm just floored. And I'm going to force myself to read the rest of this because I think there's information in there that is going to be useful at some time in the future. But I'm just wore the fuck out just from reading, you know, 100 pages. So I would encourage you to read it. But
John, I'm gonna send you the link to the Attorney General's website so people can download their own copy. I'll pull that up in a second.
And we'll just make the point briefly because the chat room's already making it. Yeah, there are hundreds, if not thousands, that aren't named in this report. They even admit that in the report. Records have been destroyed. There are thousands of children that have not come forward.
Sure. I mean, John, let's just start with the numbers. You know, this is what they can absolute prove. They're not going to put anything in a report that they can't 100% verify. But they 100% verified 300 priests and 1,000 kids. 1,000 children. The number is so that is so underestimated. So I mean, we're probably talking, you know, 10,000, 10,000 just in those 6 dioceses. I mean, a thousand's a joke. If you got 300 priests, that means they only each molested 3 children.
Yeah, and the report itself contradicts that, because even some of the ones they documented, I don't know where they got their fucking numbers, but the ones that they documented had 20, 25 victims. Yeah.
Right, one guy had 25. So if you extrapolate 25 over 300 priests, you got 7,500.
Yeah, and if that one guy had 25, there's probably a couple hundred that never came forward.
Oh, absolutely, and that's just the one. Sure, I mean it's 1,000 people. People are, you know, up in arms about 1,000 children, which obviously you should be. But if they, what are you going to be when you get the real number, or if you extrapolate the Catholic Church across the country and across the world, where we know it's happening in every diocese in every fucking country. I mean, how many children is that?
Yeah, and
so my little rant about tens of thousands is
one of these cases. I'll talk about it. One of these guys that was identified in that diocese, they sent and they have these facilities where they're owned by the Catholic Church. They also own their own insurance company that pays these settlements. That should tell you something. So they send these pedophiles to these facilities, and they try to say that they have substance abuse. Some of them do, some of them don't, but they send them, and they have these store-bought psychiatrists that supposedly treat these guys, and then they release them to go back to be around kids. And the one guy, what do? They send him down to New Mexico to this facility, and he's under the supervision of the diocese down there, blah, blah, blah. Even the diocese in Pennsylvania wanted this guy supervised. So what happens is this entity supervising him down there sends him to Texas. And the guys in Philadelphia or in Pennsylvania don't even know this. They find out about it. They find out the guy's no longer in a rectory. He's living in a house. And they have stuck this guy in the lowest socioeconomic area that they can think of. And these are poor Mexican children that, you know, most of the families don't even speak English. And this guy has got carte blanche to these kids. They forget about them. They don't do shit about them. And then a few years later, reports start surfacing that he's molesting, you know, these kids in you know, the poor communities and at a much greater rate. It's just unfucking believable. And this was with full knowledge of the bishops. I would say full knowledge of the Vatican. You know, all the way to the top. Like they didn't know this was going on. It's just beyond belief. It's so monstrous and such a huge conspiracy. You know, you think the Kennedy assassination was a big conspiracy. This makes that look like, you know, a small conspiracy, and it makes Watergate look like, you know, play school. I mean, the level that this is on and what's being involved, you know, these are thousands and thousands of lives that a lot of these children are dead now. A lot of them are incapacitated. I mean, you just can't even imagine. And that, as you read this report, it starts to dawn on any person with half a brain or any type of humanity, the scale of this, and I can't even comprehend it. Jump in anytime.
Yeah, I mean, you basically said it. I mean, we could start going through particulars. I mean, you were talking about, you were explaining. I put in a tweet. You want to talk about the playbook, John?
Yeah. Let's talk about the playbook.
Yeah, let's read it. I put together a thread. The investigators essentially identified how the Catholic Church concealed everything that was going on. So, and it was done, and it was basically 7 different pieces, parts of the playbook. So, number 1, and this is this is like the guidelines they would send out to the churches. Make sure to use euphemisms rather than real world words to describe the sexual assaults in diocese documents. Never say rape, say inappropriate contact or boundary issues. That's number 1. Okay. Let me read that again because I was didn't read it very well. Make sure to use euphemisms rather than real words to describe the sexual assaults in diocese documents. Never say rape, say inappropriate contact or boundary issues. Okay. Number 2, don't conduct genuine investigations with properly trained personnel. Instead, assign fellow clergy members to ask inadequate questions and then make credibility determinations about the colleagues with whom they live and work. Okay. Number 3, for appearance of integrity, send priests for, in quotes, evaluation at church-run psychiatric treatment centers. Allow experts to diagnose again, in quotes, diagnose whether the priest was a pedophile based largely on self-reports, regardless on whether he had actually engaged in sexual contact with the child. That's number 3. That was a little long. Number 4, when a priest does have to be removed, don't say why. Tell his parishioners that he is on, quote, sick leave or suffering from, quote, nervous exhaustion, or say nothing at all. That was number 4. 5, even if a priest is raping children, keep providing him housing and living expenses, although he may be using these resources to facilitate more sexual assaults.
And health and car insurance too. It's not on there, but that's what they do.
So number 5, even if a priest is raping children, keep providing him housing and living expenses, although he may be using these resources to facilitate more sexual assaults. Okay. Number 6, if a predator's conduct becomes known to the community, don't remove him from the priesthood to ensure that no more children will be victimized. Instead, transfer him to a new location where no one will know he is a child abuser. Do not remove him from the priesthood. Do not, and I'll just throw in, don't tell the police. Just transfer him to a new location where no one will know he is a child abuser. And number 7, above all, don't tell the police. Child sexual abuse, even short of actual penetration, is and has for all relevant times been a crime. But don't treat it that way. Handle it like a personnel matter, quote, in-house. They're talking about the fucking rape of children in such a matter-of-fact way, like they have like a bad employee. This reminds me of like a company that has like a disgruntled employee or something.
And it is. This is that's another reason this report is so important. It gives you a view into the institutional culture of pedophilia. We've been talking about this. The Boy Scouts, the Explorers, USA Swimming, blah, blah, blah. this is what the institutional culture that enables this and promotes it. That's what they're doing. You know, that's what they're promoting this. You know, it's not they're just letting it happen. They're trying to they're flat promoting this, and that's what they're doing. And
creating, and obviously creating strategies to keep it going.
Absolutely. And trying to,
which I thought was a crime.
These are all crimes, and you can see it even from the introduction. This is a criminal conspiracy to rape kids, and to keep it going for as long as they possibly can, and it's still going on. There's been nothing really done. They've instituted some policies. They're giving lip service to this now, but how about, you know, demanding that the bishops that were involved in this criminal conspiracy face justice? You know, how about excommunicating them? There's a million things that they haven't done, and our so-called the nice Pope Francis, he's tweeting the other day about they're changing this canon law or their policies and procedures about the death penalty. Well, maybe what I tweeted was, have you heard some of these pedophiles are going to get the death penalty? Because that's what they should be getting. But, you know, he might want to concentrate on the canon law that enables the secrecy that enables the molesters and the child rapists. Because it's right. It's not suggested. It's not policy. It's fucking canon law.
Well, only an organization as powerful as the Catholic Church could. I mean, this is just the latest in a long line of stories, John. Just in the, you know, the 14, 15 months we've been doing the show. I mean, things happen. You know, it happens every day. I mean, we've got George Pell, the third in line at the Vatican.
Oh, okay, yeah. while you're talking about him, this is one of the, because what I'm working on is a top 10 list that I'm going to tweet at the Pope for, you know, avoiding. Let me see what I called it. Wait a minute. It was one of the highlights of my day, tweeting at the Pope and the U.S. bishops. Let's see if I can even find it.
Did he respond?
Not yet. I keep checking my notifications, but it was.
You get trolled by the what is it? The Pontifex?
Yeah, Pontifex. Yeah, it was a reply to you, Howie. As a matter of fact, let's see.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So I think the first one I liked, it was to the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops and the Pope. Thank you for making my weed whacking enjoyable, and it was a welcome break from reading the PA Attorney General's report, filthy, monstrous details of the criminal conspiracy perpetrated by the Catholic Church on the holy innocents of PA. You guys know about the holy innocents? You know what the holy innocents are? Well, that's one of the Bible stories that you know, the Church holds so dear and teaches in their catechism, and it's about the children that were killed by King Herod, all the firstborn male children, in anticipation of Jesus's birth. Well, I'll tell you what, the children that they have killed and the spirits they have murdered, you know, make that massacre look like small potatoes, because we're talking millions and millions of children. So let me find the other one, because I'm working. I know you're working. And please, people, take those. You can get those right out of the report. The top 7 strategies that they're using to protect child rapists. But I'm working on a top 10 list, and I got 8, 9, and 10. because we're using their oh yeah, there it is. Okay, let me see. I can even.
John, can I just jump in for a second? Because you were talking about, yeah, because we're talking about murder. I remember this story came out. I don't know if anybody would remember excavations at site of home for unmarried mothers and their children, where it is alleged up to 800 children died, uncovered human remains in, I believe, it's in Ireland.
Right, right.
Just remember to.
They were probably raping the girls that were in that
the tomb home.
Okay. Yeah, and
the commission said analysis of selected remain reveal ages of deceased range from 35 weeks to 3 years old. It found that the dead had been mostly buried in the 1950s, when the facility was one of more than a dozen in Ireland, offering shelter to orphans, unmarried mothers, and their children.
Yeah.
The tomb home closed in 1961. This is a Catholic charity home for orphans and unwed mothers, and there's an unknown gravesite with 800 children.
And what they were doing, they were raping these orphans, and because the orphans couldn't have babies, they were letting them have the babies, and then they were murdering the babies, maybe in some of their satanic ritual abuse. But yeah, 800, and it's not unlike the one priest in the report who raped the young girl, paid for her abortion, married her, and then divorced her, and that's in the fucking report. So he was, he used the, an abortionist, but back then in Ireland, it was probably much more convenient for them to just murder these children. So I mean, just unfucking believable. But this,
and we should point out that we always think of the rape of altar boys, and the statistic says something that 81% of in the entire from what they've researched, 81% are boys, and 20 and around 19% are girls. So that's across all Catholic Church abuse. So it's not just boys. So it's like a 4 to 1 ratio.
Yeah. So anyway, take those, take them right out of the report and make some memes with Pope Francis's picture. This is number 7, and we rounded out the list to 10 when I tweeted this out. But yeah, that's the 3 I got. Was 8, pretend to be actually doing something; 9, change church doctrine on capital punishment; and 10, which would be number 1 if you were doing a top 10 list, give Vatican number 3 paid time off to attend rape trial in Australia.
Oh, yeah.
There's nothing that shows your parishioners, the billion or so Catholics in the world, that you're more serious about taking this seriously than giving the number 3 at the Vatican, Cardinal Pell, paid time off to attend his rape trial in Australia. I think that lets us know just how serious Pope Francis is about taking care of this problem. So
they've never been serious, because you know what? If they were serious, it would get to the root of the problem. That this is just part. I mean, to me, everything that I've seen and looked at, this is just part of their culture. This is what they do. This isn't like road rage, bad apple.
Okay, let me see. Let me ask Kelly this question. Why do you think? What is the main reason that they are the way they are? That they don't change.
Well, for one, there's no repercussions.
Yes, they got away with it. For God's sake, they got away with it. They're getting away with it. You've got a 2-year investigation by a state attorney general and a grand jury, and nobody's going to jail. There's a couple of indictments. Why would they change? What is their incentive to change?
There is none. I mean, and what is this deal in Australia? I mean, is it like something like, I forget the name of, there's a committee that you go and sit before, but nothing ever happens. It's basically just a cover up. It's another cover up, a
Well,
blank.
actually, there's a prosecution going on, and
Okay.
Cardinal Pell, who was the number 3 guy at the Vatican, got extradited, or I don't know if they actually extradited him, but he was forced to return, and the Pope gave him time off to go to this trial. And there are hundreds of just him, not other priests, but this is the number 3 guy at the Vatican. There are hundreds of his victims that he is charged with as crimes, and if he's convicted, he'll spend the rest of his days in prison in Australia. So and they had a commission, that we need here that hasn't happened yet, and it cost them, I think, $500 million. But you know what? This trial is the result of that. So yeah, they are doing something. So
it's being heard in an actual court, judicial system, is what you're saying.
Yes, he is on trial, charged with hundreds of rapes.
Now, where does the statute fall in? I know that we discussed that a little bit. Obviously, it's different per state. If it's being heard in Australia.
The statute of limitations, and that's addressed a little bit, and I haven't gotten far enough in the report. But one of our goals, and we'll ask for help with this. Anybody that's listening, we have any lawyers out there in the crowdsource, we're trying to determine what the criminal statute of limitations is in each one of the 50 states on raping a kid. And it seems like a lot of these cases, at least in Pennsylvania, that statute has run out. And that should be like murder. I mean, if you rape one of these children, there should be no criminal statute of limitations. So that's one of the issues that's why we're going through this report, to bring out the issues that we need to bring out, and that everybody needs to bring out to their legislators in your own state. Find out in your own state, what the deal is. And the other huge issue is, where are these guys?
Exactly.
They're obviously not on the sex offender registry.
Exactly. That should change. Potentially, we can get together something to have that change, because that definitely needs to change. If they're willing to make a change, that would be a first step. Well, one of the steps. Correct? Me if I'm wrong.
Absolutely. And I reached out to CT. Help me out, Kelly. What's his last name?
Wilson.
CT Wilson. He's a survivor of child sexual abuse. He basically single-handedly fought the Catholic Church in Maryland in the legislature and won, and forced them to extend the civil statute of limitations, where these survivors can sue the Catholic Church. And we're trying to get him on, because I think he'd have a really good view as to how this operates in Maryland and probably across the nation. But
and let it be known that he is a Democrat, and legislation in 2017 by Hogan.
Yeah. And that's what we've all said. This is not political. It's just not. I mean, there's nothing to do with this issue that's political. And we have pedophiles on both sides of the aisle. We have honest people on both sides. Of very few. They are in the minority. But all this polarization of politics is just a distraction. It's just a waste of time.
Right. It's time to put the political away for everything, but obviously more so this particular topic.
you know. And,
yeah, well, it's interesting that when it was trending for me on Twitter, Catholic Church was trending. I saw people, because I saw a lot of like blue wave resistance types. So, maybe this is actually, one of those issues, people really could come together on, you would hope.
and we better, because it's going to take everybody.
Right. And I think it's a good thought to have in mind for us all to come together.
Sure.
From both.
Yeah. I like to see more Catholics come together on it, personally.
Yeah, and I'm also in the process of there are pretty good survivor organizations, probably in all 50 states, and I'm sure those people have been working, their damnedest to get something done about this, and we all need, we need to all be on the same page to network and use that, the power of just being together on the same page on this to force, because the government, I hate to tell you, but a president or 50 members of Congress or 100 are not going to change this. They're just not. I mean, there's too much. I think Trump is trying the best he can. He can, but when just you take this report, okay, that's like a microcosm of the corruption that's out there in all the different organizations and all the institutions. And then you've got one guy, that's in that position trying to deal with all that. And yeah, he's done a lot. He's done more than any president, and I always point to the executive orders, and we have seen real change as a result of those, from law enforcement, from just everything that's going, these larger organizations, Nexium, getting taken down, Backpage, Craigslist, just waving a white flag, and I still think they're going to get nailed at some point. But this is not something a president can do. It's not something 2 or 3 presidents can do it. It's going to take millions and millions of people that have just had enough of this shit and are going to make whoever their representatives are accountable, and who their spiritual leaders are, their parish priest, and boy, they're lucky I'm not a Catholic anymore, because believe me, whoever my parish priest would be catching hell. And I'm seriously thinking about this, and I'm going to do it just because I'm just so pissed off from having to read it myself. I'm going to print out a few of this entire report, all 1,400 pages, and I'm going to carry my ass down to one of the local churches and hand it to one of the priests and ask him if he's read it. And maybe a couple of the parishioners will ask, gee, what is that huge stack of papers that you're confronting our maybe they'll read it. But I believe that every Catholic in the United States should read that entire report, and if they're not willing to do that, they're just part of the problem. So we'll see how that goes. Howie had a good idea too, to get some of this information out in pamphlets that you can just go by and hand some of these parishioners that probably don't even know that it's going on. Like he said, Twitter shut that hashtag down to just the Philadelphia area, just Pennsylvania. It didn't run on it didn't trend on my Twitter. So is that by accident?
Yeah, as John and I were talking before the show, idea popped in my head that, because I kept saying, like, I don't understand how people can keep, going back to these churches. I understand religion, and I get it, but it's not about religion. It's about the institution, and you're going back to the institution that at the very, 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 very least, covered the stuff, very knowingly covered the stuff up. Now, would you want to be part of a institution that covers up child rape no matter what the reason? So I say no. But if people, are in denial about it, okay, then maybe we should, somebody's calling me. It's the second time they called. It's from Florida. Someone's calling me. Hold on for one. I'm sorry.
Maybe it's the Rainbow Cultural Garden. I gave him your number.
Anyway, yeah. So putting together some a brief pamphlet with lots of statistics that people can just easily read and give them some food for thought as they're entering this church, and it's something that everybody can do. Everybody has a Catholic church, and what right now we're picking on, and we're going to pick on more religious organizations as time goes on, but right now we're going to,
it's in every religious organization.
sure, but right now the Catholic Church is getting attention, and we need to capitalize on that momentum. And I'm saying everybody can go out to their local Catholic church, not cause any kind of scene or whatever, but as people are going in, simply say, here, you take one, and as they might not even know what they're taking, and as they open up and read it, boom, there you go. So I mean, that's an idea I have, and hopefully, I'll definitely put that together I'll get some people and we'll put it together. We'll get them printed up, and hopefully people will print them out and go down to their local church and and hand them out.
Yeah, and I'll make a video of me going down there with the 1,400 pages, and if somebody likes that, and whether it's the pamphlets or the whole report, that's what you need to do. Go Facebook Live or YouTube Live or whatever, or just make a video like Howie does of the whole thing. That's what needs to happen. That's what social media is for, and put it out there,
right.
And
you can go
cause a disturbance. They need to. I mean, what?
Yeah.
So okay. So all right, we're talking about the report and should people, how to get them awake, and do you think every Catholic in Pennsylvania knows about this?
Yes.
Now.
With 6 out of the 9
They should,
dioceses,
because every diocese has put out statements, and there's only one that's really paid any attention, and that's Erie. All the rest of them are just still covering their ass. But I got the statements from every diocese, so the parishioners should know about this. And if they don't read this, guess what? They're complicit in this, and it continuing. That's the way I feel about it. How could you not? How, you've got a publicly available 1,400-page report, maybe only 300 pages, or wouldn't you want to just read your diocese? Wouldn't you want to know the names of these guys? And let's go through some of the names. And unfortunately, or fortunately, quite a few of these are dead. But I mean, if I lived in one of those dioceses, I would want to know the names of these guys, and were they at my school? Did they teach my kid? Did my kid, like this kid in the report, die of an overdose?
Yeah.
Because he was dealing with the trauma and addiction issues.
Right. And one good thing about the report is it will show the timeline of the actual priest that has been called out as a pedophile priest, if you will. And it shows the timeline of where he was at, year by year. And so it's well worth it to go through, because it's right there and it's spelled out for you. And
it also includes it. You can see it when they're getting caught, because every time they get caught, they get sent on leave of absence.
Right.
It's documented, and you can see, and they'll send them from a parish to a school. You know,
Right.
I'm trying to find one on here just so I can show you.
Yeah, let me.
Yeah, oh, here he is. This is the guy who was giving the young boys cancer checks.
What page would that be on, John, on that report, if anyone's
this is on page 73. And the guy's, that's Chester the molester, Gronkowski. Okay. So these are his known assignments from 76 till 2001. St. Joseph, Oil City, St. Bernard, Bradford, St. Agatha and St. Bernadette Mission, Sagertown. Oh, 88. He goes on health leave. Okay. So they caught him doing something. They send him to the Catholic-owned pedo rehab facility. And so then he comes right back to Erie. He's checked off Holy Family Monastery in Erie. This is 89, May of 89. He's not there very long. Then he goes to St. Patrick, another church in Erie. 12 of 89, another health leave.
Didn't learn his lesson. The 10th time.
Yeah, he's reoffending, and this pedo rehab is apparently not working. Okay, so then he goes to Pleasant Ridge Manor, and then to a hospital, and then to say another diocese. I mean, it goes on, and this is just one. I mean, this is one guy out of 50, and they're all, and they say this in the report. They're giving the examples, not to be quantitative. They're just showing you the procedure of how the diocese was moving and hiding, what these rapists were doing. So here we go, and this is Erie. Let's just say these names. Let's get them on the record, and they're on the record in the thing. But this is the one diocese, and when you read the report, you'll get an example of about 3 of these. But Michael J. Amy, Michael J. Barletta, Donald C. Bolton, Robert F. Bauer, Dennis Chudzinski, Donald Cooper, Michael R. Freeman, Gregory Furjanic. There's Chet, Gronkowski, Herbert Glocker, Robert Hannon, James Hopkins, Barry Hudlock, Joseph Jers, Stephen Jeselnik, Thomas Kelly, Gary Ketchum, Thaddeus Kozlinski, Gerard Krebs, Jerry Kuka, Louis Larai, Salvatore Luzzi, Richard Lynch, Daniel Martin. Oh, there's a redacted one, so that guy doesn't want his name out. Leon T. Murawski, Edmundus Murphy, John L. Murray, Giles Nealon, Jan Oliwin, Andrew Polizak, John Platowski, David Polson, William Presley, John Sanchez, Samuel Slocum, Thomas Smith, Thomas Snyderwine, John Tomei, Patrick Valamont, and 41 is redacted. He doesn't want his name in there. But guess what, people? He's out in your community right now. This guy that's in this fucking report is probably raping 20 or 30 or 40, however many kids, is in your community right now at large. What do you think he's doing? You think he gave this up? No, what he's doing is petitioning the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania that's giving him relief, so you don't know who he is. So if you live in the Diocese of Erie and you don't want to find out where these 40 guys are, you need to have your head examined. And that's just one. So Jesus. Go ahead, Kevin. Sorry. Go ahead.
45 named priests. 45 named priests in Harrisburg alone. Not to mention the ones that John just went over. That's just the ones that have been named. Now, where's the accountability? There is none.
Kel, I'm sorry. Can you talk up a little bit?
Yes. I'm just saying in Harrisburg alone, there's 45 named in the report. And who's to say who's not named? along with John, the ones John mentioned, just in Erie. Now, just to recap, there are 6 dioceses named in this report only out of the 9 in Pennsylvania. I believe I posted a map on my Twitter of who's being called out in this report. But it's well worth what I might do, and I think I mentioned this to the guys. I'm going to go ahead and just PDF each diocese. That way it might be easier for the eyes. So if you know somebody that lives in that area, or you are in that area, the Erie diocese or the Harrisburg area, it might be easier for your eyes. That's just one thing I'm going to go ahead and do.
And that's a great idea, because we can tweet at, you know, people from Harrisburg and say, here's your list, you know, read this section. And I tell you what, Kelly, I'm going to use that because it'll be a little easier on me. You know, I won't have to.
It's overwhelming. In everyone's defense, it's very overwhelming. Very.
So yeah, I would want to at least check that list to see if any of my kids, you know, had contact with these individuals, and are they still living in my community? You know, are they, you know, what are they doing? You know, because apparently the Catholic Church doesn't care. Apparently the state of Pennsylvania is powerless to, you know, prosecute these guys, which is ridiculous. And I hope where this goes, if anybody is listening at the Justice Department, this is the perfect case to go in individually, diocese by diocese, if that's what it takes, and charge, not because it, you know, yeah, you want to get the individuals that did this, but you know who I want to get? I want to get the bishops that covered this up, because you think those aren't offenders? These are the guys. What are the chances? I'll just ask you, Howie. Okay, you've got these bishops that are covering this up, you know, but they're in charge. Who's watching them? Anybody?
I don't know.
Is there any reason to believe that they're not offenders?
Exactly.
There's no reason. There's no reason to believe anything. None of them have any fucking credibility.
Yeah, it's shot.
So, you know, that's what I want. And,
you know, and
you know,
this is a little, you know, it's a little more personal for me in Pennsylvania, but you know, in this report, you know, there's 8 dioceses throughout Pennsylvania support. The reason the other 2 aren't named, and that's Allentown and Philadelphia, is because they already had a separate thing. Philadelphia's had its own abuse, you know, investigation, where one person went to jail pretty much. This guy, I forget his first name. His last name's Lynn, and this is back in like 2013 after a lengthy, you know, investigation. And Lynn was some type of like, I mean, he was a priest, and then he got moved into administration. He was like the one responsible for reassigning the priests, and he's like the one that went to jail for a little while. Then he was out. I mean, it was like this whole fucking shit show. But it's like one guy that was actually assigned that was actually his job was to reassign the priests, and they pinned the whole thing on him. And the former, I've talked about this before, during the trial, the former Cardinal of Philadelphia, Cardinal Bellavacqua, who was in his 80s and he was retired, they were trying to get him to testify, and the Catholic Church was saying that he was incompetent to stand trial. So they tested competency. They deemed him competent to stand trial and to testify. And like a week before he was getting ready to testify, former Cardinal Bellavacqua died. And they had there was no like pomp and circumstance ceremony or nothing like that. Bellavacqua was just gone. Buried him, and that was it. I gotta get pulled up.
Yep, and that's what I mean. Yeah, we want the individuals, but when you read this report, you'll see it. Some of these guys, they turned themselves in. They went to the church officials and begged for help, okay? And it was covered up, and they were shuffled into this, bullshit system of rehab that obviously doesn't work. And these guys were actually trying to get help. So I hold the bishops and the infrastructure of this corruption more accountable than the individuals who did it. And they, there's a whole division at the Department of Justice called the Civil Rights Division. Okay. And they have pursued civil rights cases, people getting shot by police, denied their civil rights, denied the ability to redress their problems in the legal system. It had, in integration in the 60s, they did that division. Great work. It still exists. Is it violating? Okay, so you take a 7-year-old kid that's been raped, and this one case I want to talk about this kid because I want it. He wrote a letter to the attorney of the diocese that was trying to cover this up and buy these people off. He wrote a letter just before he died of an overdose. But this kid was 7 years old, and I believe it was the Gronkowski guy. He anally raped this kid so forcefully that he blew out discs in the kid's back. Okay. That's when the kid started using pain meds. It wasn't to deal with the trauma of the abuse. Okay. So that goes on, and they finally, they're in touch with the legal team from the diocese that are trying to buy them off. Not only did they do that, they tried to discredit anybody that came forward, blame the victims. I mean, they've done every, just monstrous. The evil of it is just, it's not fathomable. This is 13-year-old victim, okay, that was injured in this rape, okay. This is what he wrote to this shitbag attorney that was trying to buy the family off, and he wanted them to do 5 things, okay. 1, stop aiding and abetting priests. 2, ensure collections, that the plate where you put your money in, were not used to compensate these priests. 3, publicize the names of pedophile priests. And this was in 2002. Identify any priest who has molested a child. And 5, establish a policy to ensure offending priests were reported to law enforcement. Doesn't seem like too much to ask. And this is a victim whose back was broken in a rape, okay? Asking the attorney, would you please do this, okay? And that damaged child died and left this earth without ever getting redress, without ever getting the respect of even them acknowledging what was done to him. And, if that doesn't move you, you need to check your pulse. And this is what we're dealing with here. And it's not gonna be the president. It's not gonna be the state attorney general. It's going to be the individuals, the Catholics in the diocese of Erie that show up and read this report and gut the administration and demand that the people that aided and abetted, the bishops, their assistants, all the administration that covered this up in a criminal conspiracy are prosecuted by our Justice Department if the laws, and currently the laws in the state of Pennsylvania don't allow this. So it's up to them. It's up to us. It's just too much, and I don't have I don't have anything else to say on this.
and this is, you know, this is just 6 dioceses in one state. What we know, what can be proven. You know, people, like I said, people. I've seen people just flabbergasted by, oh my, 300 priests, 1,000 children. I mean, the numbers are astronomical. Worldwide, every continent. Is there a Catholic Church on Antarctica, John?
I wouldn't doubt it, and they're probably diddling the penguins.
Oh.
All right, so so six continents, every continent where there's a church. I mean, when you start getting into the European stuff, I remember it was a 60 Minutes thing on, I believe it was in Ireland, and they were this is quite a few years ago, and they had just appointed a new head of the Irish Catholic Church, and he actually sat down and he interviewed, and he was talking openly, and he wanted everything released, and he wanted to just get everything on the table. He seemed like a really good guy, but I don't know if I'm conflating the stories, but there was one story, and I don't know if it had to do with Ireland or it was another part of Europe, where the Catholic Church was castrating the children of sexual abuse after they reported it to cure them of their homosexuality. And this was like really happened. The Catholic Church was castrating children that came forward reporting abuse. And I don't remember the time frame, and you know, I probably should have more information on it. Although it's definitely real. I want to say the 1950s, and it was definitely in Europe. So, I mean, I've read, you know, that right there, like who are these people? What is this organization? What is this quote unquote religion that would castrate a child? I mean,
the same one that threw 800 babies in a ditch in Ireland. That probably that.
You know, John would probably know better than me. We get into the historical aspect. I read a thing where if they had boys in the choir that were you know, sopranos or whatever, and they were very good, you know, good singers. I heard the story goes that they would also castrate them so that their you know, before puberty, so that their voices wouldn't change, so that they could stay, you know, so they could stay in the choir. You know, if these types of things are true, man, I just don't understand how, you know, it's beyond comprehension for me.
Yeah. Well, and it was a tough night. It's a tough subject, but we're not leaving it alone by any means. And we may have to have a special report. Kelly has done so much work on NXIVM that we need to present. We might just have to do that in a special report, but we'll figure that out. But this was so, you know, emergent that you know, and I think necessarily so. We
right, and it's going to be an ongoing.
Yeah. So we're gonna. I'm gonna read you guys something, because I've been obviously in pain all day over this, and I just want to read something. I just want to close with this because I need to do this myself, and it's a reading. It's a spiritual reading by the native peoples, those savages that the Catholics tried to convert, and it's about forgiveness. there were many injustices done to the native people. Sometimes I wonder, why am I connected to the past injustices done to the Indian people? Why am I so angry about the past? The elders say our ancestors are alive within each of us. Therefore, I may experience anger and resentment inside of me because of the injustice done to them. The way I get rid of these past feelings is to forgive. It may be necessary even to learn to forgive the unforgivable. And to me, that's some wisdom. And I'm going to work on forgiving these people, because right now I'm not there. But if I'm able to do that, and I think I am, that doesn't mean I won't see them all in a jail cell. So, for whatever that's worth, that's what I'm going to work on in the next week. Forgiving, because the hatred and resentment and anger that's in me right now, I can't carry around. And
right.
I'm told that forgiveness is, and there's, it's not just from the native people. You know, if you follow the Christian religion and the words of Jesus, you know, forgiveness was pretty big. So I can forgive them. I know I'm big enough to do that. And I think a lot of the people involved are able to do that. And but that doesn't mean we'll stop fighting for justice for these survivors. So I'm just going to leave it there.
All right, man.
Prayers out to all the victims that have been affected by any type of abuse by Catholic priests, for sure.
All right. Thank you guys for walking the road with me. Thank you, everybody that's listening. Please, that link's in there. We're going to have more links in the show notes that Kelly put together for pertinent pieces of information about this story. And we're going to continue to cover it. It's just initially this has been like a ton of bricks, but we're in this for the long haul. And we thank you for supporting us in this difficult journey. So we'll see you next week. We might see you in between with a special report or two, and get out there and make yourselves heard. So good night, everybody.